And we are hot, Brady Miller. We're back on the podcast. We're remote today. Obviously, I'm here in Cedar City. I'm going to be in Vegas tomorrow. We're going to record a couple more episodes. We're trying to get episodes backlogged, kind of put in the bank so that we can head out elk hunting. So I'm getting ready to leave on Friday. I'll be out through pretty much the end of the month. And so we're trying to get some podcasts recorded. Today we have guests. We got Josh Carver. Josh Carver is a conservation officer for the state of Utah, and a friend of mine. I call you a friend, even though I left the division. I think we're still friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brady, do you want to hear a funny story? I got a nickname for Josh Carver. I don't even know if he knows this or not. We're going to find out right now if he knows.
We're already starting off with nicknames.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
So, yeah, Josh and I played intramural softball. We had a team back when I worked for the DWR, and Josh is super speedy. Josh is an athletic dude. Josh played. Did you play semi-pro soccer?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, played around.
Yeah, I got another story about Carver. Carver actually about broke my foot one time. He, yeah, we were playing intramural soccer one time, and I thought I'd step up on defense to try to block a shot, and the guy about broke my foot. The guy's got a leg for sure. Yeah, I limped around for a week after that. But my nickname for Carver, so Carver played the outfield. Carver's a lot speedier than I am, and he used to make incredible catches, Brady, in the outfield. Carver would make elementary catch in the outfield look fantastic. So I always referred to Josh Carver as Nice Catch Carver. And I don't know if he knows that or not.
No, because I don't think I caught anything. I overran everything.
Not true, man. You always made incredible catches. And even to this day, my kids, because Josh lives here in Cedar City, my kids refer to Josh as Nice Catch Carver. So I hope you don't mind me telling that story, but I thought it'd be a good icebreaker just to introduce you.
Right on.
We appreciate you jumping on today.
I had to tell you something real quick about Trail though first, because Trail, he doesn't know this either, but like we play ball together. Trail's competitive, but he's an athlete too, so don't let him trick you. But I remember the first time I played basketball against him, he took it to us, and I was like, son of a gun, and he could shoot with his left and dribble, so that just ruined me because I can only dribble with my right, so he can switch hands. So, yeah, trust me, he's an athlete himself.
That's funny that you said competitive. That's why I don't play competitive sports anymore, Carvers, because I get too competitive.
Yeah, that's because we get that age where now we don't flex like we used to.
Nope.
Well, speaking of that, though, here's the thing. Like, I always stop playing sports because I don't want to get hurt anymore, like you're saying. Like, we're not – like we used to be. But then I see Trail come down here to the office, and like the guys in the warehouse have longboards, and Trail will hop on a longboard and just like cruise down the warehouse. I'm like, Trail, you realize if you fall and like hurt your elbow, you can't draw your bow back anymore. And it's hunting season. You got to stop touching the longboards. You got to stop doing anything dangerous this time of year, and just focus on getting ready to go hunting.
That's right. And it's good advice. But I'm still competitively playing rugby right now, and I can't get enough of it.
Are you really?
Yeah, I play over in Vegas, and it's a riot.
No way.
Yeah,
I didn't know that, man. I could see that for you, but good grief, that's crazy. Rugby's rough, man. Brady and I went to New Zealand, and we had a kind of a day before we hit the plane. We sat there and watched rugby all night because that was about all that was on TV.
We were trying to figure out what was going on.
Yeah,
it's self-explanatory, but we were watching it like in awe. Like, this is a really cool sport. Like,
yeah,
legit.
Yeah, it is. I think it's as legit. It's getting so big, but man, I tell you what, though, if nothing else about rugby, you can't be a quarterback, make a throw, and then do nothing. You have to be part of the game all day long.
That's how often do you play?
I play as often as I can. I got a tournament coming up next month, so I'll probably get like 4 or 5 games in one day. So we'll see.
In a day?
One day.
Yeah. Yeah,
that definitely puts a toll on the body.
Dude, how do you get out of bed the next day?
You don't. You just a lot of ibuprofen.
That's wild, man. We appreciate you jumping on today. We were talking a little bit before. Basically, I just wanted to get a conservation officer's game. What do you go by? Game warden, conservation officer?
Yeah, I mean, we're called conservation officers, but yeah, I mean, I introduce myself as the game warden so that people know what I'm doing, because that's more universal, I think.
Yeah, Yeah, I just wanted to get a game warden's take on what it's like to be a game warden. Maybe talk through some common violations, maybe some issues that people might have over time and how to avoid them. Also, just as I think it's like when you get pulled over, right? You're driving down the road, maybe you're doing a few miles over, and you see the reds and blues behind you. There's that like bit of a pit in your stomach that pops up. It's probably amplified that much more when a game warden approaches you, because you're like, man, this is the thing I love more than anything. So I definitely don't want a problem when it comes to a game violation, right? So there's that kind of I don't know, a little bit of a pit in your stomach. So I thought it'd be interesting to talk and kind of take your perspective and maybe help people understand like how to deal with a game warden in the field. So I guess
one quick backstory here, Trail.
What?
One quick backstory. This kind of like brings us all full circle now. So like way back in the day, I actually wanted to be a conservation officer. I went and did several ride-alongs in high school with conservation officers who went out on. Growing up in Minnesota, we were checking fishing licenses during the winter. So we're like just running around checking all these ice fishing houses, and like I thought it was a blast. I was like, this is the thing I wanted to do. I don't know where I like separated from that and like wanted to be like a biologist later on, but like at first it was like conservation officer. I want to be riding around. I want to be in the field all the time, and like that was the funnest times ever in the winter. Like I don't know how many ride-alongs I did, but several, and it was a blast. Like all day, just checking people's licenses, and I thought it was really cool. Like talking to the guy and like all the stories, and like that's what we're gonna do here. It's like I want to hear all these stories again, and all these tips. And
how'd you get into being a game warden?
Man, that's a good question, because that really wasn't my top thing I wanted to do. I wanted to get into law enforcement. And I always thought, being a game warden or a conservation officer would have been kind of out of the picture. I just thought, man, it's too competitive. There's too many people. We, like you were saying, we all kind of had that desire to want to do that, but is it realistic? And I did an internship through the university in my senior year, and I rode with, remember Brian Shear?
Oh yeah,
just old Sarge, man. He's just awesome guy, and I rode with him. And very first ride along, we're driving down the road, and he's got this old beat up Dodge pickup truck. The doors are popping open as we're driving, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this can't be right. And he's like, hey, we gotta go on a hot call. One of our investigators just got found. They just realized he's an investigator, so we got to go pick him up. These guys are pretty heated. It's kind of they just discovered that he was not part of this group, that he was actually an investigator. And so anyway, we zip over there. We're going red and blue, and we're hauling. And he says, "Do you know how to work a shotgun?" And I'm like, "Why?"
What?
Goes, you may need to. And I was like, "Oh, I think I love this job." And so we pull up, and he had the shotgun, and he goes, "You know how to function it?" And I just, and he goes, "Okay, just stand your ground. If anybody comes in here, protect yourself if you have to, but all laws apply." And I'm like, okay, and I'm a criminal justice major, sociology major, so I'm like, all right, I'll watch him. He runs out there, and the investigator was kind of surrounded by a bunch of folks, and so he just runs out in uniform, basically tells him who he is. The investigator kind of runs in behind him and then jumps in the truck, and we take off. And I was like, and that's a great introduction to this job.
That was the first day, like first ride along.
Yep.
How did that play out? Did it kind of mellow out?
Well, then the funny thing is, so I don't know all the details of what led to that. And I don't know I was privy to it, because at that time, I was an intern. And of course, I was asking questions. I'm like trying to get him to tell me what's going on, and he gave me a little bit here and there. But, it's a little different nowadays. Like that kind of stuff we have that. We're still doing stuff, but that was a little Western. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that we could get away with that nowadays. That's 20 years ago. You know what I mean? So, but it was interesting, because right after that, we jump into going out and doing some patrol work. And so that's like day one. I mean, this truck was going 85, and the doors were almost falling off. You know what I mean? Like this is a game warden truck, And so then we went out and patrolled. I'll never forget, because as we're patrolling the same day, we're literally going over top of this deadfall and these old logging roads trying to get to this guy. And I'm like, this truck is just insane that it's still functioning, But it was pretty cool. I told him then. I said, this is what I like. I mean, it's the best of both worlds. I wanted to get in law enforcement. I wanted to get into the outdoors and be part of wildlife and protect it. But you have all the stereotypes stuff that you and I really wanted to digest all that. I wanted to see if all those stereotypes were real. You know what I mean? If like I
Yeah.
hear this or that about these guys, and could I really last in that environment? I didn't know. And so doing that internship was awesome because it was unique, and we still offer those. It's just I don't see as many people actually trying to take those up. But it was so cool because I got to see the culture and see what it really was. And then at the same time I was kind of applying for other agencies like
Mhm.
PDs and counties and just seeing what was available. But I tell you, this world is it's it's so exciting. It's addicting.
Mhm.
It's also the biggest letdown job you'll ever have. You know what I mean? Like you will be let down so often. You'll be disappointed so often that it takes a toll on you mentally too because you really want to serve the public well,
Yeah.
and you don't make the cases because your victims don't speak. You know what I mean? Sorry, the air conditioner just kicked on in here.
That's okay.
But yeah, it just victims don't speak. You don't get the same. You don't get the same thank you. And I'm not saying we work for a thank you, but you don't. I mean, we're human
Sure.
because it just doesn't exist, not in this environment. And so, like, you have to learn to find value in it differently. And
Right.
I have. I think because to make it 20 years in this job, I mean, you got to find it somewhere. And I value that. This job to me is like, when it's all said and done, I feel very proud of the work I've done.
Yeah. What's the process of, so you do the internship, what's the process of actually being selected, and then what kind of training do you go through, and how is it different from like becoming, a city cop or something,
Yeah,
or a sheriff or something like that?
yeah, that's a good question. So, in fact, I'm actually right after this interview, I'm headed up to Salt Lake to help sit on the board for the new hires.
Right.
And so what we do is they compile everybody, the job announcement comes out, and then people can put in for that announcement. It's competitive, but they really look for certain degrees. They look for people that have like showed interest in this job and this field. And I'm gonna be totally honest with you, we are losing. There are times people that are putting in for this have never participated in hunting.
Oh, gotcha.
Really?
So yeah, and so like when they come in through the process and we put them through the ringer. So there's all types of stuff. There's written tests, there's verbal tests, there's like what I do, which is called the impact, which is like scenario based training.
Hmm.
I'm literally giving somebody an actual scenario, and they got to be the officer in that scenario and do well.
Right.
And so they got to be able to handle people well. And one of the scenarios I'm giving them this weekend or tomorrow, to be more specific, is a trapping scenario. You know what I mean? And how are you going to deal with somebody who's anti-trapping, thinks trapping is horrible, and then they got to communicate. And on
Hmm.
top of it, the person who maybe hates trapping is in violation of the law because they disturbed this person's trap.
Right.
And so, how do you sell that, to the
Yeah.
public? So, yeah, we put them through the ringer, but education is probably the biggest thing. That kind of puts you up in the top of the pecking order, and then from there, your interview and all that stuff, the written test.
And then do you go through post like
That's right. So,
regular post?
yeah,
How
that's
long is
right.
that?
So now I think it's 3 months. Utah Police Academy is 3 months. When I went through, it was a little different. It was a little longer. They had just ended the police corps, and I was the tail end of the police corps. So it was way more militaristic, and I enjoyed that. I thrive in that environment.
Right.
But nowadays, it's a little different. You can do posts through other places. So yeah, when you go through posts, you're in there with deputies. You're in there with PD troopers, and you're learning how to be a police officer.
Hmm.
And wildlife really isn't even taught to you yet. Like you know nothing of wildlife yet.
Right.
Unless you're a hunter, you
Yeah.
don't know anything.
So,
And
I mean, to that point, do you think it's important then, if it's possible that people have hunting experience?
oh man, if they don't have hunting experience, you're in for probably the hardest educational experience of your life.
Right.
And if you don't hunt, and I say this all the time, I'm a huge proponent. If you don't know what they're dealing with as a hunter, how are you going to relay that information effectively? Because it's a communication, is what it is.
Right.
Good point.
And I, growing up, I remember when I saw the game warden pulling around, I was like, oh man, what did I do? You know, and I had no idea that just because my presence of being out in the field entitled them to come and just do a compliance check.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know that because when I work for the county, and I work part-time for the county, I work part-time for SUPD, like there's things that I do on the side, you know, and when I go and directly talk to somebody, they're in violation of the law and they know it. When I go and talk to a hunter, there's no law being violated that I'm aware of.
Sure.
But I'm doing a compliance check and everybody's nervous, rightfully so. It ain't fun, I'm sure, and I try to put them at ease as quick as possible.
Yeah.
And so it is very different.
How do you so to that point, like you approach a hunter, and you've talked a little bit about education, but how do you approach a contact in regard to enforcing a law and then also educating people?
So I'll give you one as of yesterday. So we took a UTIP call, and it's a Utah Turn and Poacher is our hotline, and so I won't give you names and all that stuff, and I'll try to avoid locations too, but so because it's fresh. And I saw the call, and we're down officers right now, so we need officers bad, and we're trying to hire as many as we possibly can. But so I look at the information. Basically, these guys are using bait at a reservoir. They're not allowed to use bait, and so I pull up on scene, and I shoot them straight. That's my philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for a reason. I was called. Someone reported you using this, and I don't mess around. I don't like say, hey, how are you doing today? And then try to sneak my way in. That's just not my style personally.
Sure.
And I just come up, this is what I got. And the guy that was there, I looked at him, I said, and I think you got weed. And he's like, sure I do. And I'm like, all right, what is it? And he's like, it's a pen, it's a vape pen. I got weed and I got stuff. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, guys, look, I ain't here to ruin all your day. You could still fish today, but you're all going to be in trouble for what you've done, but you can actually still fish. The guy goes, am I going to jail? And I said, no, you ain't going to jail. But the funny thing is I was telling my wife this on the way home, because I just had to call her because I was like, man, I got to tell somebody this. This is funny. It was the best excuse I ever heard of breaking the law in my entire life. I mean, it was a great excuse. I didn't give it to him, but it's the best excuse. He says, man, if I don't do this, if I don't smoke weed, then I do meth.
What?
Wow.
Really?
And I said, sir, I appreciate that integrity, that honesty that you just told me. I'm going to work with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on the fishing side, they were using, bait, and it was illegal, and they were totally cool about me checking stuff. And we got to the root of the problem and the good education. And the afterwards, and I don't know the guy could be selling me whatever. I mean, honestly, he shook my hand and told me that was one of the best contacts he had with law enforcement in his life. And he said, his words were, how did he say? He says, you have restored my confidence, is what he said in law enforcement. Now, he could be lying to me. I'll take it for what it's worth. I genuinely felt like that was a good contact. These guys were straight with me. I wasn't there to, and I even told them, go fishing, man, just do it right. And so they were doing it right. But, that's the biggest probably difference between us and other agencies is conservation officers. When we pull up, we don't think you did something wrong a good portion of the time. We're just doing a compliance check, and I see the heart rate just skyrocket, and I'm like, gosh, I gotta alleviate that. So I'll just joke with them, and if they're not having it, and they were like, man, I want straight to the point, why you here? And I'm just like, hey, I'm Officer Carver. I'm here to check licenses, then, and I'll get out of your hair. That's it.
Right. Yeah, put people at ease. I assume you've probably become. It's interesting because you're right. Like, you're not necessarily pulling people over, just running into people because they've already done something. Like, you're just doing a compliance check, so it's different than like a regular police officer, right?
Right.
Which is way different. So you probably got to have a different level of communication skills to like put people at ease. You probably did you naturally have that, or you had to develop that over the years?
I've got a lot of lumps on my head from all types of learning processes in this life, but I tell you, I don't think there's anything natural. I mean, you use what your God given talents are given, right? Like
Yeah.
whatever that might be. And I tell people all the time, be whatever your natural. Whenever I'm training a new guy, I always tell them, man, whatever your talent is, man, you magnify that
Yeah.
because you ain't got a whole lot like to really. There's just not a lot of opportunity to really set people at ease what your job is. And so I'm like, if your gift is confidence and you're just one of those quiet, confident guys, do it. I'm not. I'm a loud, obnoxious guy. So I'm like, whatever you do, but put people at ease, show them the respect. And if they're doing it right, man, my biggest thing is if you're doing it right and I encounter you in the field, tell them thank you for doing it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Show gratitude for the people who are doing it right. And I always try to thank people if they're doing it right. And if they're doing it wrong, I just look at it as an education. But yeah, I mean, like, honestly, I don't know that anybody's prepared for it because you really can't test that out in people and see what it is. But it is something that you learn fast. If you don't, you probably won't survive it.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet it's tough. What's a day-to-day look like for you?
Well, nowadays it's different because I'm not I don't have a patrol district anymore.
Mhm.
Per se. Like, so I'm a K9 officer. I do full-time K9, and with that, I'm one of the only. I'm the head tracking trainer or trailing trainer for the state of Utah. So for Police Academy, I train. I do a tracking school for K9s to locate people. That's fugitives. That's search and rescue, whatever it may be. And then but for me personally, I spend vast majority of my time responding to calls other officers may have when they need assistance. So they're like, "Hey, I got this case. This guy just shot this elk." I'll give you one like just the other day. Well, they found a bull elk. We don't know on a certain unit that this elk doesn't fit the size that somebody would shoot.
Right.
Or if it's a spike hunter shooting this, they're just having fun poaching basically. And so it's like, can you run your dog up there and see if you can find the arrow that passed through this animal? And my canine found it.
Really?
So now we got now we got evidence, right? And so let's say we check this person in the field and they got this specific arrow, same height, same length, same vein, same broadhead, same thickness, and they say they weren't up there. Well, that's suspect one, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting, man. So when did you transition to be a canine officer? And
so it's been a few years now. I've been in K9 almost 10 years, but when we went full time, that's because we were so heavily involved in cases, and that's really what it comes down to. So we're just we're assisting in the cases that we can, because the evidence and the information that we get is wildlife. There's nobody saying like, "Hey, the suspect looked like this." There's not a the animals don't speak. So it's like, we're using animals to help animals, right? It's a pretty cool situation. But once we got to where we were doing I think a pretty solid job, they turned 3 of us into full-time canine positions, and that's all I do is canine stuff. And so, for me, day to day could be patrolling in the field, but vast majority of the time it's responding to assist other officers in the field. And that's not just our department too. I mean, I was just before I got here, I was on the phone with a detective over a homicide case, and I actually deployed my dog on this case. And he was just telling me the judge did end up giving these guys 7 life sentences for this homicide, and I was pretty excited because that was such a well done case. And so, I'm a conservation officer working a homicide case, and that's because we try to be as helpful and productive to everybody.
Yeah. What's the caseload like as far as for COs in the state of Utah?
That's a great question. When I first hired on, caseloads were through the roof, but I think they were done differently, and that probably is why. There's a little bit of a process, right? Mm-hmm. So now caseloads, and I can't speak for all the regions, but I can speak for the southern region, which include 9 counties, 10 counties, or whatever that might be. Southern region is highly caseload involved. So the public is really good about calling me up and saying, "Hey, Josh, man, I got this. All right, I'll tell you, but you can't let no, it was me speaking." And I'm like, "All right." I always tell people, like, I don't know that I can do that, for one. So I'm going to delete everything that you just did on my phone, and I'm going to forget about your name, but I'm going to look into this case, right? And I know most folks in this town, so it's like, here's what we got. I had this. I was out doing this, and I saw this, and here's what I do know. And I'm like, so if I say anything to this person based on that, it's going to come back to you. Yep. So in other words, find a way to get around that. Okay. So cases come in that way, which is just personal contact with people.
Yep.
Cases coming from our tip 411, they can just get on their cell phone and generate a case and send it to us. Cases call from our UTIP number, Utah Turn Poacher, which is a phone. And then cases coming from dispatch, like, hey, like this guy just called dispatch and reported this. And so there's so many avenues, but the detective, he just told me he was like at 14 cases, and some of our officers are running 30, 40 cases deep, easy. I've been upwards of 120 cases a year.
Really?
And yeah, I've been interviewing people where I'm interviewing them and I'm like, I got the wrong case.
Yeah.
My brain just
Yeah.
went to the wrong case. And so I'm like, go back through my notes and I'm like, sorry. Yeah, we're talking about it. Help. What I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, dang, man, just so many. But I think personally, you get more cases the more you're socially active with the public.
Great. Well, yeah, you build a relationship, right, with the game warden, so people feel more at ease to
Right.
actually come to you and give you information. I was just curious because it's like over the years, I mean, when I was a kid, growing up where I grew up, it felt like, yeah, I mean, I knew some poaching happened. You know what I mean? Like, I knew some guys that probably did some poaching here and there, and I think probably some of it was out of necessity, back
Yeah.
then, and probably some of it was just for kicks and giggles and for some trophy animals. And I knew some people. The older I've gotten, today's day and age with spotting scopes and trail cameras and so many different people out, my perception is that poaching has declined. But I'm curious, is it still pretty? I mean, how many deer do you think are taken in the is that a stupid
Yeah.
question?
No,
Like
it's a great question.
via poaching?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Gosh, so it's a really interesting concept because one, you got to define what poaching is.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't really define it, then it's just too general, right?
Right.
And then what people really they take from poaching is a guy driving down the middle of the road in the middle of the night on a dirt road and he shoots this big old 4-point buck. That's if you just say poaching, a lot of people just lead to that kind of concept.
Yeah, it's where your head goes.
That's right.
Yep.
Yep. And so instantly that's what it is. But poaching is not. Poaching is literally theft, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you take guy fishing over limit of fish, if you take a guy using a trail camera and he unlawfully harvested this animal based on that trail camera, when everybody else is following the rules and he's not, that's poaching too. Poaching is this huge realm of what it could be. And honestly, I view myself as a referee of a game. That's what I do. I'm just trying to keep it even for everybody who's playing in this game. You know what I mean? There's nothing worse than when the referee is the center of the highlight of the game.
Oh yeah,
I don't want to be there. You know what I mean? I don't want to be the center of the highlight of the game. The best game you've ever watched is when you didn't even know there's a referee there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But everybody's complying. But for me, like it's tough to say because the amount of poaching that goes on, when you start uncovering a case that leads to another case, another case, another case, you're blown away. So you're like, I'm only getting a percentage of what's going on. So how much is really going on out there?
Right. Do you think it's mostly just like a few bad apples, or do you think there's no? you think everybody is a little more apt to like bend a rule here and there?
Man, that's a great question too, because I'll speak from the heart then on that, because so I really value. I mean, to the point where it's like a life statement for me. I value the person who can hold themselves accountable.
Mm-hmm.
I they're a rare breed. We as a society went from that's bad, don't do it, and if you do, here are the downside of doing these things, to that's bad, don't do it, but this guy, he's never done anything bad before. Two, now that's bad, don't do it, but now it's not even bad, don't do it anymore. It's like, well, if you look at both sides of it, I'm just taking what's mine.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then you get the other one that I disagree with the biological factors, so therefore my statement stands. And it's like, you can't win when you live in a world where whatever that decision is justified,
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden nothing becomes wrong. It's just make a better argument.
Yeah. More justification, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Do you feel like that's changed then in your career a little bit?
100%. So I say this all the time, and I don't have any evidence other than just my personal experience, but I could tell you right now that some things, whenever technology comes out, you get the pros and cons, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have Facebook, I didn't have social media, when I first started my career. I'm not against it because there's so much good that comes from it. But one of the things I did see in my personal experience with things are guys doing things to generate a
Mm-hmm.
picture on Facebook, right?
Sure.
And I'm not knocking that because I love seeing the family with the animal, or the guy out there who's worked real hard for that animal. But because of that, it kind of, when you see things at a higher rate all the time, it desensitizes you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a lot of the general public are desensitized on the animal. And so this is my thing. I tell people, honor that animal, man. I don't care what that means to you. Like it can mean something different to both of us. But one thing we can all agree on is, if you harvest it, take that meat, enjoy that meat. Take that animal home. Don't waste it in the field. Don't kick it in a tree because he wasn't quite 28 inches. You know what I mean? Like honor that animal. That is, you are harvesting something. And I always say, like, if you really truly honor the animal, 90% of the stuff is taken care of.
Right. Yeah, no, I feel the same. You bring up social media. Social media is interesting because I've been active on social media. I don't post that much. It's been a long time since I posted. It's not necessarily that like I have anything against it. I just don't enjoy posting that much, right? So like I enjoy the experience, like doing it for me. Obviously, I do a lot of stuff for GOHUNT, and those guys post stuff through their channel of me and Brady both, but it's just part of the job, right? But I had a moment where, because for a long time I thought, man, people that just, they're out hunting and they're posting for likes and for clicks and for comments. I just felt like it kind of bastardizes it a little bit for me, and it kind of felt that way for me. And I had to come to a moment where I was like, you know what, I think I have a different value system, right? So they value that, they value the likes and the clicks. I get it. I don't necessarily see the same frame of mind, but it's something that they value, and I don't know that it's good or bad, to be honest. It just is, right? So to me, kind of where I had to land was like, as long as they obeyed the law, as long as they got the permit legally, as long as they hunted legally, they followed the laws, they tagged the animal, they took the meat, they obeyed the law. Like, as long as they did that for me, like, I can be okay with it. You know what I mean? I kind of had to like let go of it. But to me, where the line is drawn is like bending rules for that purpose only. Like that one, I don't get, and I can't allow it.
That goes back to that whole, like what I was telling you about refereeing. And I mean this because sports, you can relate it with sports. I feel like that's one of the better ways of relating this. But I asked you this, Trail, like how many games have you watched where, like, if the rule was bent in a sporting event, it just lessened the value of that game.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
One of the greatest games of all time just happened the other night, and can you imagine if the referees made some or there was rules that were changed that created a great game? It wouldn't feel as good of a game, right?
Yeah.
But those people left it all in the field. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That was one of the coolest things ever. And honestly, that's why I think it's so important that we have a base internally.
Mm-hmm.
So when I teach hunter ed classes, one of the things I always try to strive to really push is like, hey guys, Like, pick your hunting people wisely, because if you're one of the top sayings in the world is like, show me your 5 friends and I'll show you your future, right?
Yep.
So like, I love that because that's true. But hunting is also more about family, right? So like, show me your 5 family members you hunt with, and I'll show you your future. In whether whether hunting becomes a constant, oh no, I'm in trouble, or it becomes like, hey man, I'm proud of this moment, right, with my family and kids.
Sure.
And so I don't know. It just, to me personally, I'm not saying like this younger generation, I'm not trying to pin anybody down, but I am saying that the longer we pursue the hunting sport in general, things change. It just is the nature of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I never understood I never understood taking an animal that you couldn't be proud of because
Right.
you didn't harvest it legally, whatever that might be. You know what I mean? Like I never got that. Like I don't think that anybody, and maybe there are. I'm speaking in generalities, but maybe there's people that need the meat that bad. But I don't think most people at this stage in the game, they probably don't need the meat that bad. It's not like life and death to them. I think that's probably something that's, in my past when I was a young man, because I definitely knew some people that needed it, right? And maybe there are still, but I don't understand. Yeah, I'll never understand the glory or the mindset of like, you can't be proud of it. I don't get it. Like if you take the animal and you do it the right way, man, be proud. Take the grip and grin. You know what I mean? I love a grip and grin. Take it, be proud of it, post it up, let your friends comment on it, let them like it and shit. But I do it. If you've done it legally, then yeah, you got something to be proud of. I don't understand the mindset of doing it, illegally. Because every time I would look at it, I would feel jaded. I'd be like, why? You know what I mean? I'd feel like I just wouldn't feel it the same. And for me, a lot of hunting, I want the feeling of accomplishment, and like I want the satisfaction of having done it. And part of that is like trying to do it the rightest way I possibly can, so that I can feel good about it.
But I want to say something about what you said, because this is from an officer perspective. This is something that I'm glad you said what you said, because this is really important. I feel like this is huge in shaping people's perspectives, especially how they feel about me. You know what I mean? Because I represent something, right? I sometimes don't know if they feel that about me personally, but then like I think it's what I represent, right? But the one thing you said is really important. You said, I want to feel like I did it right. Sometimes we do it wrong, trying to do everything right.
Right.
100%. You went out there with the right ethics, the right mindset, and you did something wrong. It happens. It honestly happens. I mean, I can think of a couple right now where a guy shot at a deer, shot high, didn't see the deer behind it, never did. I know he didn't. I'm not saying like I even felt like when he was trying to explain to me that I had to pursue that he like just shot this other deer on purpose, right? Like a doe or something like that. And he did everything right, and he still made a mistake. So this is where this gets a little tricky versus other law enforcement. I can be speeding down the road. I can not signal and turn in the other lane. Cops say, hey, I pulled you over for not signaling. And they're like, no, I did. And then I can show them the video, and they're like, oh, shoot, I forgot that, right? Mm-hmm. But you can literally read everything, interpret the law, and understand it, and still be wrong on something. And I tell those people, I promise you, it's a faith thing, that I have good intentions when I'm investigating this. My intention is pure. They don't believe me all the time. I understand that. I'm not here to say like, if you trust me, I'm your friend. Like I get it, because I see where that come from. I am their friend, but I'm not expecting any trust, right? But I am saying, let the investigation, let the actual evidence speak for itself, because it will. And I will stand in front of the judge for you to testify that this young man told me everything I needed to know, because I've done it before. Yeah. And I promise you, Your Honor, that this kid made a mistake, but it was not intentional.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest, like game laws are not, I mean, and especially if you hunt between different states, right? So different states have different game laws, different rules and regs. And I mean, they're not always easy, right? And they change, right? So like Utah used to have what 400 cubic inches of orange. You had to wear a vest and a hat. So that's just recently changed, right? So you just either need a hat or a vest. Am I right?
Right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So things change. And I mean, I'll be completely vulnerable here. I got a warning in New Mexico, about 13 years ago. Killed a bull in the backcountry, 13 miles in, and got all the meat out. 2 days later, everything out, packed out, worked my guts out to get everything out. Got checked by a game warden at the trailhead just as I was leaving, and he's like, "Hey, let's pull all your meat out. Let's take a look at it." I said, "Yeah, cool, let's do it." Pull all the meat out. We lay it out on the tailgate, and he's like, "Where is your neck meat?" And I was like, "Neck meat?" Question mark. I'm like, I didn't pack neck meat. I'm like, I did just pack, I did just get this bull out of the backcountry, like 11, 12, 13 miles,
right.
I didn't bring neck meat. And he's like, well, in New Mexico, you're supposed to have, I believe it's 75% of the neck meat, right?
Right.
And I told him, I said, okay, I understand. I said, if you've got a freezer that I can put this in, I'll put it in the freezer and I will hike back in there and I'll get you, 10, 15 pounds of neck meat, if that's what it is, whatever it might be. And he was like, no, I understand, what's going on. He's like, I am going to issue a warning. So I got a warning in New Mexico for not taking neck meat. Point being, I didn't know that. So like, I'm from Utah. We take hindquarters, front quarters, backstrap, tenderloins. We're not required to take neck meat. And I assumed going into that situation that I was in the same situation I was in Utah, which is naive and stupid of me, right? Like I should know the game laws for the state that I was hunting in, but I mean, point being is like, you do have to be up on the individual states' game laws. And then even then, I mean, I was trying to do the best I can and, it worked out for me in the end. I just got a warning, but, I want to ask you this question. So this guy, when he approached me, how should people interact with a game warden when they approach
Yeah,
him?
great question, man. So I actually teach this to hunter ed kids. I'm like, okay, I'm the officer, and I'll give them a fake gun, one of those wood ones, and I'll say,
Mhm.
I'm the officer. I'm coming to check you're out duck hunting, and now you see the game warden coming, and I'm like, how do you approach this? And one of the things I always tell people, like the first and foremost thing is like, you don't know me, I don't know you, and and I'll just give you a background. Like I've had a lot of felons with guns, dudes
Yeah.
with, they're like, in fact, just because I was driving here to do this interview, I'm talking to a guy. We're dealing with a guy who's got multiple protective orders, and he's threatened to kill people in the past, and he's going to be hunting this year, and we're talking, and so I may be encountering that guy in the field. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how that's going to be, but generally speaking, if you can make your weapon non-threatening.
Hmm.
So if obviously fishing, right, is not the question. We're talking like, let's just say big game hunting, and you got a weapon with you. Make that non-threatening, out of respect to whoever that person is that's going to be checking you. So one of the things I see people do, and I always appreciate it, is they will break the action open,
Mm-hmm.
or I'll see people do that. I'm not. That is not expected. I don't expect people to do it, but if they do it, I see they're making an effort right away to show me respect, and I try to return that quickly. The other thing is I'll just say, hey guys, officer, just checking licenses. I want them to know my authority, and I want them to know exactly my intent right away. So if I get someone acting squirrely, like I gave you why I'm here, like why are you acting weird,
Yeah.
right? You know what I mean? So for me, is them hearing what I'm saying. For one, is the actual physical eye contact and literally seeing that we're speaking the same language, and then do something that's not quick movements,
Yep.
right? You know what I mean? Like I
Yep.
don't like that. It scares me, you know. And sometimes it's just because of nerves alone that they do that. And
Sure.
so I've been lasered how many times with a rifle, shotgun right across my body by people looking for their licenses. You know what I mean? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I hold that for you, sir, because you lasered me 5 times. But so really, the first thing is just acknowledge that you see them, right? Acknowledge that you see them, and that's okay, even if they're from a distance. Acknowledge that you see them, because if I know you see me, we're going to probably do some verbal communication and some nonverbal communication, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is if you have that weapon, you can set it on the ground, you can break the action open, you can pull the bolt out, you can do whatever, and just put it at a low ready. and I prefer to hold it one hand. That's just me, because I
Right.
don't see them gunslinging one hand typically.
Yeah.
But those are the respectful things that they can typically do. And then really, when I show up, I'm going to be very descriptive as much as I possibly can. I'm going to say my reason, my intent, and then I'm going to be out here as fast as that stuff is produced, so that they're not interrupted. Right. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my motto on checking people is keep them in the field hunting.
Yeah. What's the difference between somebody that would, I mean, is there anything that somebody could do to avoid getting a ticket, getting cited?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't say it like it's a secret, because I would love people to know this more often. One of the best things you can do to get out of a citation is to be truthful, respect the animal, and try to learn why you might be in trouble at that moment, right? So
Gotcha.
I'll give you an example. I had a lady fishing one time, and she was fishing with her kids. She's fishing. I mean, her kids are out playing. She's just fishing.
Was
And
that my
I'm like,
wife?
no,
I'm just kidding.
drop the whole around. She outran her too. But like honestly, like I'm like, she's fishing, right? Like she took her kids fishing, but she's fishing. So I pull up. I'm like, hey, just checking license. She's like, oh, I'm just taking my kids fishing. I'm like, well, your kids are over there, they're all over there playing. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, hey, do you understand why I'm checking this? She's like, no, actually, no. And I'm like, okay, let me explain something to you. Fishing licenses pay for a vast majority of wildlife in general.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you don't have a fishing license and you take a fish right now, that is someone else who bought that fish and paid for it, and you're taking it for free. And she's like, oh, I thought these things just naturally occurred in the water. I'm like, man, I wish they did. We have to actually plant those suckers in there. And she's like, no way. And I'm like, and once I explained it to her, she's like, and I'm stealing it. And I'm like, yep. And she's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that. And so then I'm like, well, guess what? You now know. I educated you. Don't do it again. No ticket for you. Good verbal warning will do. I'm out of here.
I like it. So be honest. Yeah, be forthright. I would assume that people, they should be able to produce their permits. Do you have any advice as to like where people should keep them, just so that they keep them in hand? Like, do you keep yours in your bino harness? I mean, that's typically what I do. One of the other questions I had, so like whenever I get pulled over by a cop, right? Like if I got a headlight out or whatever, which I do right now, so don't pull me over, Carver. But yeah, I always wait for him to walk up before, because usually I've got, my wallet, and I might have my insurance in the glove box or whatever, right? So I wait for him to walk up, and then I'll ask them, hey, my insurance is in the glove box. Are you okay if I grab, my insurance in my glove box, right? Because I don't want them to think I'm like digging for something, right, as they're walking up, right? Is that something you also advise people? Is just like, do you ask questions of you, like, am I okay to get this now? Like,
yeah, that's a great question, because movement in general makes me nervous. Not
Yeah.
because I'm like, if there's a lot of movement in a vehicle, it makes me nervous. I'm
Right.
not gonna, there's just a lot of red flags that can come from that, and it could be nothing. But
Yeah.
I have to assume that it's something, because I want to go home at the end of the night, right?
Yeah.
So for me, like whenever I have a guy hands on the steering wheel, both hands on the steering wheel, and they're just like, my license, registration, and insurance, is in my vehicle. Would you like me to grab that? And I'm like, I'd appreciate that. And I always throw this out there, and the deputies sometimes laugh at me, because when I'm doing deputy work, I'll be like, any weapons in the car? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, awesome. That's okay. I love the fact that you have a weapon, but do me a favor. Where is that weapon? It's in my door. Just don't reach anywhere near a door for me.
Yeah.
And they're like, gotcha.
Right. Yeah. And the game warden's unique in that pretty much everybody they walk up got a weapon. They got a bow, they got a rifle. I mean, everybody that you're probably going to encounter in the field's probably carrying some sort of weapon. So
if they don't have one, that makes me nervous.
Yeah, why are you out here?
Yeah, I'm like, so are you lying to me, or do you really not? Like, why would you not have a weapon? And I'm a firm. This is one of the things I admire about our department, is they truly take a good, I think, the best stance on weapons in general. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, a weapon is there to protect myself and my family.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is part of our constitutional rights, right? At the same time, these weapons are also specifically designed to harvest wildlife. And so there are parameters within those that you can use, right? So
Yeah.
not to get on the whole Second Amendment, but I personally, when people say, "Yeah, I have a weapon," I'm not uncomfortable with that. That doesn't make me uncomfortable. What makes me uncomfortable is them thinking I want to take that weapon from you. Sometimes, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I'm like, "Sir, I promise you, I'll fight for you to have that weapon more than most officers will."
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get into some wild. Do you want to? Can you tell us any wild cases you've had? Like, what's the most kind of
Ooh.
off the top of your head, the wildest case?
Well, we just recently got conviction on it. It's a couple years old now. Our agency posted online just a brief snippet of it, but it actually, this kid, I'm not trying to like, this is a kid I've dealt with since he was in, you know, juvie all the way up through the whole, when I say kid, I'm an old man, so everybody's a kid nowadays, but it's like, you see them when they're in high school and they commit these crimes, and then they kind of get older, and you're like, please don't keep doing this, man. Like, I'm on your side if you stop, man. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, grow out of it.
yeah, this one did not. In fact, they would call it booze cruise, and they'd go out and just shoot whatever they saw. And so this one, if you pull up our DNR Facebook page, there's a picture of my dog Sam and then a set of antlers.
Mm-hmm.
And that one, this kid actually, during the archery deer hunt, he just went out and just dumped these huge bucks. I mean, just dumped them and left them to rot. Well, one of them, he actually took the head and put it in his freezer. And so we got conviction on it, but on that one. But that one's probably, I never scored it. I think it was, oh man, if I remember correctly, I think it was a little over 28 wide. And I mean, it's a great buck, a buck you just dream of, but he left this other one to rot out in the field. But my dog, I ran my canine to find the carcass of the one that was missing the head. We found that. It was kind of cool. It was old, so. But this one, I think the reason why it was so special is because I've dealt with this person so many times, and I finally got him to where I'm like, dude, you're going to lose your right to possess a weapon because you can't control yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, what is this? And I'm going to tell you something. When you were talking about like looking at it, let's say you shoot one, poached it, and you got it mounted in your house. You got to walk in your house every day and see that critter, right?
Yeah, that I don't get.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. That's like having a first place trophy in track and you took last, but somehow, you got the first place. Nobody wants that,
I don't get it.
So, but I've had a guy that we seized antlers from what he poached one time, and he kept them underneath his bed.
For real?
Yeah, he had to sleep by him. He was so like this was so like, it's a psychological thing, and I wish that there was more of a profile of these types of poachers, because that's a smaller percentage, right?
Mm-hmm.
But these guys are like so into the animal and keeping it and taking it. It's weird, man. I've had guys, well, and it's funny too, because you'll get a guy that you're like, okay, man, like you got 3 felonies, 3 third-degree felonies for poaching, and they're like, yeah, so what? And then you say, oh, and you're going to lose your hunting privileges. And they're like, whoa, what? That's the only thing they care about. And I'm like, you can't legally possess a firearm now. And who's going to employ you with felonies?
Yeah.
But you're worried about losing your hunting privileges.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Kept it under his bed, huh?
Yeah.
Man,
yeah.
I don't
poached
get it.
Poached antlers, he kept underneath his bed. And then when we got it from him, it was like, I don't know, man. I could joke around and tell you what my thoughts were on that. I better not. But like, both the head gave it to me like this weird. I'm like, dude, I just walk into some creepy ghost story. You know what I mean? I'm like,
yeah,
like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm like, this is weird. But like they're psychologically, they're so keyed up and they're so like, gotta have this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then to take it and then just to keep it under your bed and then what? Pull it out every now and then and fondle it and like show your best friend. It's so strange.
Right? Yeah. I'm like, I gotta be that close to it that I had an old guy tell me the other day though, and this is something that goes with like a lot of what you're talking about, Trail, with like culture, maybe just belief system, value systems. I had an old guy come up to me. It really disappointed me. I'm not gonna lie. And he said, hey, Josh, I know you've been doing this job for a long time. He goes, and my family has property. And I go, I know where your family's property is. And he says, you know, I get a tag almost every chance I can, you know. And I'm like, awesome. And he's like, but I'm going to be honest with you. If that big old 30-inch buck comes out on my property and walks in front of me, I'm dumping it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what?
Yeah, not uncommon. Like
Yeah.
I've heard people say it as well. Do you know what I mean? And I get the desire. I just don't understand the follow through and like how do you feel proud of that thing? Like I just
Yep.
that will never resonate. Like it'll never make sense to me.
Same. I remember Trail back a few years. You kind of helped me on a case, and I don't even know if you remember this one, but there was a lot of stuff going on, and honestly, guys like yourself who are willing to hike out there, really actually like live this lifestyle of hunting, right, and actually truly participate. So when you say like I shot this animal, you look at your knuckles, your feet, and all the work you put into it. You're exhausted. It's not fun at that moment anymore. Like, because now you got to get the animal prepared. And like you're saying, you got to take it all the way back. You just hiked in 12 freaking miles for something, right? You're exhausted. But when you get home, it's the greatest feeling of your life. You know what I mean? That actually feels great is really at home, you know, afterwards, all the work you put into it. But there's a lot of people that don't understand that. And I always value the guys like yourself who go out there and do those things, because you really are the eyes and ears of the people seeing more than what I'm going to see.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to see. I just can't.
Can't cover it all.
Yeah. You guys are going to be the ones seeing it all.
Yeah. Yeah, that feeling, that's the feeling I'm chasing. It's not the I love a big buck and I love a big bull, but it's the feeling of actually putting it together and doing it. That's the feeling I'm chasing. And it just wouldn't mean anything to me if I did it, you know, illegally. I don't get it, but I'm going to beat this to death. I'll never understand it.
Me neither.
I really don't get it, but I was going to ask you if you had any like weird stuff, like you ever confiscate anything weird from people? Have you ever what about marijuana grows? Is that a thing that still happens?
Yeah. So earlier in my career, we used to work on a marijuana eradication team. I was on an ERG team, emergency response group, and we were getting marijuana grows in Utah, like a 40-acre marijuana grow was not uncommon up in the hills. So like our hunters were encountering them. Iron County, Washington County, Kane County, Beaver County, Garfield County, like those hot spots were happening for a while there. And I actually think and I'm going to say like, you know, maybe there's some perspectives that maybe differ on this, but, and I'm speaking from my perspective, right?
Sure.
But because Utah is very quick to respond to that from a law enforcement perspective in general across the state, I think we push them into other states. They're obviously still here. There's some that are still here, but we pushed them vastly into other states where they feel they can get away with that, right? So let's say you have four of them growing. You have 4 different spots, and all three of them get raided, but one makes it, right? They look at the odds and they're like, so we still got one, right?
Right.
But marijuana in general and those kind of grows kind of changed over time due to like legislation where legalization in different states and all that kind of stuff. And so some of those you don't see. I don't get the phone calls I used to get on it, but like, man, I've had, you know, one of the biggest bull elk I ever seen poached in my entire life was poached from a marijuana growers, and it was an open bull unit, and it was like a 408-inch bull. And I don't know if the bull got into the weed and was eating them plants, you know, and like they eat it for that, or they dump it for meat, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just things like that, probably, you know, we don't see it because, you know, you obviously don't know until you find out, like with a good case, and then you can read all that stuff. But it's been on the decline in Utah, which is good.
Yeah. I remember when I worked for the Forest Service, it's out of college, it seemed like there was like a 5 or 6 year period there where it was just like all the time.
Yeah.
They were finding big giant grows and then going out and harvesting them, pulling them out, and then doing massive burns. I would read about it in the news, and I remember like 4 districts that I was working on, like on the Fish Lake, I remember seeing some pretty big cases. And I was like, man, this is so crazy. But yeah, you probably probably right. With the legalizations, people are probably just running to Vegas to get it now, right?
Yeah, and smaller scale stuff now, like doing a huge grow draws attention to yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, like, but what people don't realize, like when that was going on, they were piping water from
Yeah.
4 or 5 miles away. Well, that's taken from a spring that the wildlife were hitting. Now that spring is completely dried up; it's all underground, and they're
Yep.
piping all the way to this grow that was going on. And so, like, it was messing with the habitat, and then all the chemicals afterwards are just being dumped in the stream downstream. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, from just the perspective of just the natural resource devastation was going on, but I don't see it as much. Probably what weird stuff anymore. Like, gosh, man, I'm like, it just gets weirder and weirder. I mean, we get like people captive, like keeping critters that they shouldn't keep. I had a teacher one time that had a Gila monster. I had to get after him. He went and found a Gila monster, and he's letting his students, like, and I'm like, you can't do that. And he's like, but I just wanted to borrow it for a couple days, and I'm like, yeah, I'll put it back. And I'm like, like explain that one to the principal why a Gila monster bit your finger off, or something. But
Any people keeping deer, elk, anything like that in the years?
Yeah, I was driving down a road. I won't mention a road, and this has been a few years, but I just drive down this road. It connects into a ton of Forest Service land, and it's like one of the hot spots for hunting. I mean, you can just sit right there in your vehicle and watch good bucks come down this hillside, and it's just loaded with locals. And I pulled up there to patrol. I patrolled the area, and I remember I was coming back, and it was just before sunset, and this dog come out and just beeline my truck, and I thought, oh man, I think I tagged it. And I was like, son of a gun. And in my head, I was playing it over and over again. And I'm like, dang, that dog. It was like a Great Dane if it was, and then I stopped and I get out, and sure enough, it was a doe. She had a collar on, a dog collar, and she come up to me like ready to play. And I'm like, oh no.
Dog collar on a doe?
Yep. So I'm like petting it, and I was with another officer at the time, and I'm like, let's follow it home. So we followed this thing. It like a dog ran home, went underneath the garage door that was left partly open, and I knock on the door and I said, do you guys have a pet deer? And they just put their head down, and I'm like,
No way.
Man. I mean, that happens a lot, and sometimes people's hearts are in the right spot.
Yeah.
They're like the mom was hit by a car. I grabbed the fawn. I didn't want it to die, but it never ends well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bad situation.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. How's the new trail camera ban basically from August 1st? How's that going? And I wanted to ask you, what's it like to patrol that? How do you enforce it?
You don't. Yeah, you don't. Because the public is so good about calling that patrol wise to go look for just trail cameras doesn't exist. I don't need to actually go out and go look for them. The call load is so great that we're getting those calls like so frequently, like, hey, there's a trail camera here. I just seized one off a spot where multiple hunters informed me there is a dandy buck. We're talking over 220 inches is what they're all telling me, right?
Oh wow.
And I knowing this spot, it wouldn't surprise me.
Gotcha.
And so it's pretty on par for a buck like that, And so it had cellular service. So they're getting instant pictures right now, live feed while the hunt's going on, and they've got a salt lick in front of it that's been dug down to a hole in the ground, and it's fenced in a way that no livestock's get to it, and they brought in water, and so with cellular feed and everything, and I'm like, this person is playing the odds of maybe me not finding them, right, and then just playing that odds, and so yeah, it's a massive headache. But it's the legislative bill that it's part of the process. We get that. We're looking for the challenge. The problem I really see with it right now is really there's just that many of them.
Right. Yeah. I talked to a guy. He was from out of state. He was coming down. He was running trail cameras, and he was down here on the weekend prior to the 1st of August. Spending the whole week basically pulling trail cameras. Right. He's got a tag here in Utah. And he was pulling them, and he was asking me, how many cameras do you think actually get left out, like percentage wise? How many people do you think leave them out? And I was like, I don't know, but my gut says it's probably 50% maybe. I don't know how many it is, but
Yeah.
and then we had the debate on the podcast, like, if you do find one, what should you do with it? And I was just like, I wouldn't do anything personally. I'd just leave it alone. I would probably walk off. And then in most cases, like, I don't know whose camera it is. So do people just call in and tell you where they found a camera? That's
Yeah, the best thing really to do is if you can GPS location that camera and then call it in and say, I found one at this location. You don't even have to give your name. You don't have to give nothing. You can go through the tip 401. You can go through the UTIP. You can be totally anonymous. You know what I mean? Like, do everything you want. You can, if you can find a payphone somewhere, you can still use a payphone and call it in if you really wanted to. You know what I mean? But like, that's how easy it is just to call and report those. But I was laughing because I had a gal just hit me up when I was dropping my personal truck off for repairs yesterday, and she's like, Josh, I found these truck cameras over at this location. What should I do? And I'm like, all right, we'll hand it to, like, show me what you got. And of course, your personal day is always like that. So I'm taking pictures of like GPS locations, and I was kind of laughing because this thought just ran through my head where one of the guys, he called and reported it one time, and he said, here's the location. I hiked into it, and I get there, and there's an arrow buried into this camera. And it's like, oh yeah, someone took it on their own hands.
Right.
And it went through the camera and into the tree, and I could not pull that sucker out.
Yeah.
So I just thought, well, this one is solved.
Yeah, that one's toast. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I can see people. It is annoying. Like, to me, it's like you can debate whether you agree or disagree with the law, but the law is the law, right? Yeah. So whether I think trail cameras are effective in, targeting and killing big game, debatable, whatever, but the law is the law. It's what the state decided, right? So to me, it's a law that you got to abide by. But I wouldn't take it upon myself to destroy somebody else's property. But I know that people get frustrated with it for sure.
Right.
I get it. What are the most common violations?
That's another good question, because honestly, like, I asked this to my hunter ed groups, and because this is hunter ed groups are really our only chance to speak to people before they engage in this activity, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's our only speaking engagement, and I always cherish those moments. But I always write 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on a board in hunter ed class, and I'll say, okay, I'll have the whole class, including parents, and I'm really targeting parents in this. I'm like, give me the top 5 violations you think us officers encounter in the field the most often. And they start throwing stuff out, and I'll put, well, that's number 5, and then, no, that's probably a 7 or an 8 or a 9, you know what I mean? But we haven't got. And honestly, what it comes down to is there's a couple things. One, it's if you have a new regulation that just came into effect, that can be something that just kind of eats away at the top, right? And typically when we roll out some sort of new regulation, we're pretty lenient, trying to educate and really just be like, hey man, like, we're trying to educate, because next year there's just no way we're going to look, it's not going to be a warning next year, in other words, right? So, but historically, if you just go over like the years of it, right? And I'm not pulling off of data, I'm just pulling off my own personal experience. And weapon violations, like shooting from a vehicle, shooting within 600 feet of a home, shooting from a roadway, those are always in the top 3. Loaded rifle in the vehicle while driving around. The other one would be trespass. It's a huge one. You know what I mean? Like, give you an example. This is the kind of trespass that gets people in trouble. It's the type where they know where the boundary is. They see it's well marked. They know that. They have their Onyx. They're looking at it. They know the property belongs to somebody as well. And the bull elk is off the property, and it's only like 20 yards off the property. And then they shoot that, and that bull elk goes to where it's comfortable dying, which is away from vast majority of the public, which is on private, and then they go in and get it. You know what I mean? Those are things that'll get you in trouble, and that's a huge one. That's the part of trespass that I'm referring to probably most often.
What's the protocol there?
Yeah,
that's a great question too, because honestly, so there's a couple things. One, I'm not, and I tell people this, I'm not your hired thug to go pull. You shoot something on private property, then I go and I take it as a game warden and be like, listen, landowner, You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be in that situation ever. I also don't want that animal to rot and wait,
Yeah.
right? So there's a time crunch too. But the proper thing to do is to contact the landowner first. Do your due diligence as the hunter. Contact the landowner and say, "Hey, I shot this on private, I shot this on public. It died on private." Most landowners are going to say, "Baloney, right? You shot that on my land." And I don't blame them for saying that or sticking to that. So they'll call me and they'll say, "Josh, hey, like, can you go and find out if this really happened or not?" So when I get there, I'll look into the case. I had one where I backtracked with my canine to get the hunter's footprints to prove he never entered onto the private. And then I found the brass where he shot from in trajectory of where he said he shot it. So I was like, sweet. My dog even made a case. It's a win-win for all of us. Landowners like, okay, Josh, go ahead and get that animal. I recover that animal, and then he tags it right there. And so there's some of that. But it really lies on the hunter to call the landowner first. That is the first move.
Is there some, I don't know if it's a Utah thing, but is there some states that landowner could technically say you're not allowed to come and recover it? And
yeah, now you're going to go me in this I'm going to go into this twilight zone of trying to, because that's a great question. And it really is one of those questions that I've only had pushed one time. And so each county attorney has a perspective of how the law is to be, I guess, how the law is interpreted, right? And so I would take a case to a county attorney and say, here's all the facts. These are all the things I could prove. And then I'll give you just for a makeup case scenario, because I don't want to give you a real case I had on this one because it gets pretty mucky. But I let's just say, for a fake case, a guy like shoots one, it dies on private property. The landowner says, no, I don't want you on my property. I don't want this. So if I take the case to the county attorney and say, here's the facts, but this animal is going to rot if we don't do something fast. The county attorney can make an assessment and a judgment based on that alone. And hopefully I'm providing all the facts, not just some of the facts, right? And so hopefully my evidence suggests one or the other, but it's like not just a suggestion, it's like proof, right? Like it's beyond reasonable doubt. So it gets tricky. I really encourage people not to trespass or to put yourself in a situation where a single leap from an elk that is injured or shot or a deer is onto private property.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have the ones that hold strong and say, that's my public land, which I kind of feel the same way too. I will hunt where I darn well feel like I want to hunt. So I understand that too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm like,
it's such a hard situation.
Right?
Yeah, I never thought it.
You want to hunt right there because maybe that's the spot the animals are.
Right.
But then you shoot it totally legal on public, and unfortunately, it turns after you shoot, goes back to the private because again, that's where it feels safe. And they're like, now I'm in a weird. It went from the best day of my life, to now I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that animal back.
Yeah, and then typically, ask yourself the question too. Like, let's say the landowner says, "Yeah, I don't want you on this property," and then you call me, you're the hunter, and you say, "Hey, it died on this. I can prove it." You prove it, and now I'm going through this whole process all of the time. It's a timestamp.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so let's say it's 2 days later, I get a ruling, let's say, or something like that, some sort of decision, and I get there, now the animal's wasted. Does that hunter, should he tag that?
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, and it gets dicey. And then should he tag it or should he be charged with like wanton waste? Right? I don't know. Right. I mean, it gets into a lot of gray area.
Yeah. So now he couldn't go on the property. Mm-hmm. So he's done his due diligence to make an effort to go on the property, but at the same time, like, you did shoot something.
Yeah. That's it's a tough spot, and it puts you in a tough spot to try to play liaison between a landowner and a hunter. Yeah, that one's dicey. You have a lot of gray areas in your job, I feel like. I feel like being a game warden would be the hardest.
It's so tough because, and I was just talking about this the other day too with some of the guys, like when I'm working and I'm doing like, patrol from another department, it feels very specific.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the things that catch you up in the other departments are like, okay, like this guy has a protective order. He's got this, and he's got dope, and he's got this. Like, we just got to make sure we do all of these things right. Like, there's specific legislation that says this is what you know, A, B, C, D, and E. In wildlife, there's specific legislation, there's specific laws, but it can be up for interpretation.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I've had, if I get, and I'll give you an example. If I have an officer that has, I'll present him something and say, tell me what your thoughts are. And he has a different opinion than me. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Like, how would I expect the public to have an opinion, you know, that I'm going to hold them accountable if I got an officer that can't even come up with the exact same conclusion I came up with based on what he read?
Yeah. I mean, there's just so many variables, right?
Yeah.
I was out spike elk hunting this last weekend, Carver, and I called in a bull. This bull comes walking in. He's coming to my left, and he's about 60 yards, and he's closing fast. And he gets to about 39 yards, and he turns broadside. And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, man, I think that's a legal spike. So he's a straight 5-point on one side, pretty good 5. The other side, he's got one brow tine. He's got a main beam that comes up, and it kind of bulbs out on the end, you know. And I'm running through the back of my mind. I'm like, okay, I think legal spike. He's got a fork above the ear on both sides, right?
I got you.
And I'm thinking, looking at his ear tip, and I'm watching his ear. His ear tip goes up, and I'm like, okay, that one brow tine's definitely below the ear. But now I'm thinking below the ear. I mean, what's the interpretation of below the ear, right? Like, is that his ear tipped up? Is it his ear laying flat? You know, and I'm a little nervous about it at the point, and then I'm trying to figure if there's any other points on that beam that comes out, and just didn't feel comfortable. And I could have shot him for probably 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, but I let him walk off, and then I thought I'm going to try to call him back in just to get better looks. So I give him a couple cow calls, and he comes back into like 12, 13 yards, and I can see, yeah, he's definitely not got any points above the, above on the beam. And I'm like, I'm going to shoot him, but I'm nervous, man. Like, I'm dying inside. I'm like, I got to get Carver on the phone as soon as I release this arrow. And as luck would have it, he caught me drawn. I waited for him to turn his head, and he caught me drawn and ran off, which is probably the best thing that could have happened. But man, it's just, you got a tough job. Because my first thought when I thought, you know what, I'm 99.9999999% sure that this is a legal bull at 12 yards, right? I was probably 100% to be honest. But the first thing I would have done is called you.
Yeah.
I'd have been like, hey, Carver, I need to show you this animal, because I know that I know that would be in question, but I knew what the law was. But yeah, I mean, there's so much gray area, right? In wildlife.
You bring a great thing, because I had that very thing where a guy, first thing he does is call me, and he says, I'm afraid to drive in town because if someone else interprets it differently than me, they're going to call your UTIP.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
yeah. Exactly.
You're right. So I'm like, you did a smart move by calling me, and I mean that because if someone calls me, I can put that fire out right away. So I've personally seen that thing, and I stand by it. You know what I mean? But the hard part is, though, Trail, on that is like when you get the guy that's like hunting, and he's like, dude, check this out, and he's literally FaceTiming me, right, as a officer. And he's putting his camera up to his phone, and he's like, you see it? And I'm like, I see it. And he's like, can I shoot it? And I'm like, I'm not telling you.
Yeah.
You can't, right? Like,
yeah, that'd be weird going to be like, okay, now you're telling him to shoot or not shoot. And I just,
right.
Gotta
do
it.
I don't know what, that's just a perspective. But it's funny because I'll give you a prime example of that, too. I had the same thing just this year with my daughter, her first time archery hunting. She's 17 years old. She finally strong enough to pull back this bow. We're giving her a hard time about how long it took her to pull back this bow, and like we get this 4-point, and he's not. I actually thought he was a 4-point, but he's a 5-point. He legit 5-point. I was like, oh my gosh, the other side, it's broken, and it's like velvet, but it's an injury, right? And I could tell it's an injury. Like something happened where he probably went crashing through trees during the velvet and lost it. The other side's perfectly symmetrical. So genetically, he's not an inferior bull.
Yeah.
So the spirit of the law is now gone because the spirit of the law is based on that, right?
Yep.
Letter of the law still exists. So I'm like, okay. So then I'm like, or does it? It doesn't branch because the beam is gone. not because it didn't, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Now, as an
Mhm.
officer, I'm interpreting the laws and I'm reading it through my own head, and I'm like, I looked at my daughter and I said, "It's just going to pass."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the
another
thing. I would have shot this one because I thought, you know what? I don't think anybody's going to shoot this bull with limited entry tag over the years because I think he's always going to be a freak. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that was a genetic issue. That's literally one of the reasons why we have that,
Sure.
is to get rid of that. At the same time, you're taking that shot and you're like, that may be a felony shot. And I'm not saying that to scare people. Like, hey, man, like we have the law specifically in place so that you can harvest those animals that fit that definition.
Mhm.
But I always tell people that's not like a 1 look or a 2 look or a 3 look. That's like,
Oh,
like you got to feel really confident.
believe me, I looked
And you
at all the
mentioned-
angles.
if you did shoot, that's one of those situations where it's like, do you recommend people document things with their phone fully? Like, okay, if he skull caps this thing, leaves the hide out there, now the ears aren't on it anymore. So how
Right.
does that prove that it's below the ear? Like, should you be taking video and documenting, putting the ear up as far as you can to make sure everything's legal?
Man, that's a great question because I hate the idea of, me personally, I hate the idea of someone feeling like they did. Okay, let me put it in better perspective. Let's just say they did it all legal and it was a legal one, right?
Mhm.
And now they feel like they have to justify their actions to the extent of like writing their own report before they can even come home with the animal, right?
Mhm.
Like that feels internally wrong to me, right?
Mhm.
But at the same time, you already know you're going to get phone calls if
Hmm.
someone's going to be like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
How often do you guys give input on like hunting regulations and trying to make them clear to like people can understand it? Because even these spike things, like here in Nevada for the longest time, like it's like, okay, what defines a true spike? And finally they started adding photos to help people out. When you read a regulation on like whatever it could be, the square inches thing, like how often are like rules and regulations like dumbed down more or added more language to it to make it easier for hunters to understand? Because sometimes it's like so confusing. And again, the interpretation side, like, do you guys get involvement in that, or is that just a totally separate division of who writes the regulations and how they are interpreted?
Yeah, honestly, that is one of those that if an officer is not actively engaged in the laws, they're probably doing something wrong. Because really, like a law is only as good as it is practical in the field, right?
Mhm.
And we have good intent, and we know it. Like this law is great. We're so excited about it, and then all of a sudden, the practicality of that sometimes is just not as practical as we thought it was, right? In the field work, but the officers have every opportunity to send an email and be very articulate in like why they don't like this or like it, right? So there is a voice that we have that is within that. However, though, and I say this because there are times where we may not feel very strongly about that. We're like, that's going to muddy the water, and it still gets passed, right? So it kind of is both sides. However, though, to answer your question more effectively, like we really do have a say, but it's usually like if something has already been brought up, like how would you enforce this? It's kind of like we have this idea and this concept. How would you enforce this? And it's kind of cool that we do have a voice still, but your voice is only as good as often as you hunt.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you don't hunt, you can't really speak on behalf of that, in my opinion.
Yeah, you can't really understand. It's not at the level. Yeah,
Yeah.
and as you think about rules and regs, I mean, I think you guys get input, but I would hope you get a ton because reality is you're the ones that are out there trying to enforce it.
Right.
So it's like, man, if I can't enforce this law,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they're gonna. Yeah,
Oh,
trust me. You walk up to somebody who dislikes the law that just came about. You get hammered. You're the voice and the
Yeah.
face of that law, and you could maybe even internally be like, "I'm on your side, man."
yeah,
You know what I mean? But like, hey, like when they make football rules, NFL changes the football rules all the time. Like it is what it is. I'm going to enforce the law. Like I swore an oath to enforce this law. And to be fair, I'm not the judge and the jury.
yeah,
I am literally the fact gatherer. And I tell people that I remind people that all the time. I'm like, I may be the law enforcement. I may have the final like I will take this. I can seize this. I can literally take away their rights and book them into jail, right, for something. But more importantly, like, I'm really not the one though who's deciding if, in the end, if
Mm-hmm.
that was right. That goes through the trial process. So I'm really, and I mean this. I don't want to be the judge. I don't want to be the jury, because I want them to have a fair say. I like the legal process. I appreciate that legal process in general.
Yeah. Do you get called to testify in cases that you've? Is it?
Yeah,
Do you hate that? I would hate
I
that.
do. It's
I
the
would
most.
hate it. It would be
My
awful.
outfit's drenched when I'm done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm a nervous wreck, because a lot of the time, and I don't mean this to sound like I'm picking on county attorneys or attorneys in general, but they don't know it like I know it, and sometimes I'm not articulate enough to make a good argument.
Yeah.
My my verbiage is not selling the way this law was written, right?
Sure.
And I'm like, I'm not doing a service, and that makes me very uncomfortable to think that this person went through all this process to call and maybe turn somebody in and help me out, and I am not doing a good job on the stand for it.
Yeah.
That is one of the worst feelings ever. Yeah.
That night, I just think being a conservation or being a game warden, it would be. It'd be because I would assume in most cases, like, it's not personal for you, like, it's
Right.
not, and people assume that it is personal for them, right? So, like, if you book me for shooting a bull that I shouldn't have shot,
Right.
I'm going to be like, that damn Josh Carver, like,
Yep.
that guy, I'm going to take it personal. That guy's out to get me, right? Like, I could see people being that way, but for you, it's not personal. So
Right.
it's a weird dichotomy there, I think.
I hope, yeah. And if anybody ever takes anything from any of the conversations I've ever had with them, or even this podcast, which, I appreciate the opportunity, because if people take anything, is I'm not trying to make arrests. Like, that's my goal. Isn't like
You don't
I
have a
got this
quota?
number. Yeah, I ain't got this quota. There is no quota. Anything that's been like even hinted towards that, our agencies had to like make sure we have the right policies in place to make sure we're not selling a quota, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what ultimately it comes down to, though, is I serve the public.
Yeah.
I want the public to know, but not just from a wildlife perspective. I'm also a sworn peace officer. So when I pull up on scene, I'm trying to give them most bang for their buck. If it's an accident, a rollover, or something, I'm going to do the most honest job and protect these people, right? I'm going to do my medical that I'm trained to do, right? If it's an investigation, I'm not going to not turn over the rocks to find out what happened. I'm going to do my due diligence. I'm going to search, so that way when I at least sleep at night, I know that I did everything I was supposed to do. And if I lose a case, I lose a case.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that like I like losing cases. I'm just saying, like, if the county attorney says we didn't have enough in the end, I don't like that, because I didn't turn over every stone to find out. If a county attorney says to me, hey, the jury just thinks this is more appealing, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have no hard feelings.
Yeah, you did your job.
Yeah.
What do you like about your job?
Right now, probably because it changes all the time. What you like about things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
right now, honestly, I hit my 20-year mark in January.
That's crazy.
So I could retire, and I can't retire right away, because, I got youngins at home. What I really truly enjoy, and it's a little bit of the same when I first hired on to right now, but there's some differences, big differences too. But what I always enjoyed when I first hired on is driving down that dirt road on the hunt, and you see that family with their 12-year-old kid who has never shot anything. And you're like, hey, I know a spot.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, that's hands down. I remember when this 12-year-old girl shot this buck, and I helped him drag it, clean it, the whole thing. That was like when I was a brand new officer, and still makes me one of the happiest right now as a seasoned officer, right? And then the other thing is, generally, I mean this. I don't mean to sound like, I'm being dead serious when I say it, but serving the public is probably the best feeling you could ever have, even if they don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I could tell you right now, as a seasoned guy, knowing what I know now, I wish I had that thought process when I was younger, because sometimes you like, man, and you go home and you just like, I was doing everything right. I did it like I was supposed to. I was upholding what I was empowered to do, and these people hate me.
Yeah.
Now I go home and I'm like, that's their problem.
Yeah. Yeah, that is hard. I mean, it's strange to me. I have a different perspective because I worked for the division, right? So I had, I worked there for, I don't know, 7, 8 years, I guess. And I had daily interactions with the people that work there, whether it's a habitat biologist or, a big game biologist like Jason Nichols, just
Awesome.
salt of the earth dude. Do you know what I mean? Like all those people that I worked with, I can pretty heartily say, like, in it for the love of the job, the love of wildlife, the love of serving the public, obviously trying to provide a living for their family. Although I don't think you guys are amply paid. I think you should be paid more, in my opinion, for the job that you do. But all those people that I worked with were just good people trying to do the right thing, trying to help wildlife and help people and serve the public. And man, it always bugs me when people are, pissed off at the DWR. Like, oh, the DWR can't manage shit. It's about the money. It's about the money, and on and on. And like, I get it. I mean, I understand some perspectives are different than mine, obviously, because the experience that I have. But like, I would offer my support. I think that you guys do an awesome job. I think it's cool that we have to have game wardens. We have to have laws. We have to have somebody to enforce them. I'm glad that dudes are out there, because I think if we're going to have the opportunity to hunt in the future, we've said it before. I think our ability to hunt in the future is probably going to be decided by people that don't hunt. There's more people that don't hunt than do, and if we continue down the path of kind of rules and regs being dictated by a larger public, I think we've got to have laws, and we have to be able to abide by them, and I think we have to have people to enforce them, like yourself, and educate people. I should highlight, I think some of the best things, the best interactions I've ever had with game wardens have been, I'm going to do due diligence. I'm going to check the things that I'm supposed to, but then, if you are lacking, or if there is something that you need to think about, like that education portion, I'll never leave neck meat in New Mexico again. I know that for a fact.
Well, and it's a good point. I'm glad you said that, because you said it well, and we have some great people that honestly, genuinely want to see you succeed in the field. They truly, that makes their days seeing you succeed in the field. And so generally, like, that's where it's at. That's why most of these people are here doing what they do. And like you named a bunch of names, they're still here doing what they do, and they're some of the hardest working people I know.
For sure.
Do you ever get weird looks walking into small town places when you're off duty? Here's the conservation officer. Ooh, boy, don't like him.
I literally we were just talking about this. I was telling my wife, I got stared at the other day. I walk in and they just, I was in uniform, right? So I pull in this small town and they're just staring at me. And I said, hi, how you doing? And I was kind of chuckling, because I was like, all right, in my head, I went through, who's the CO in this district? I'm like, why do these people
scared right now
talk to me? Yeah. And so I was like, how are you? And I went and saw the little kids, and I went and said hey to them, fist bump, and try to give them something. And I'm like, they shouldn't look at me like they just saw a Sasquatch. You know what I mean? Like that shouldn't be the encounter. But sometimes it is, because it's a novelty. You're not seen all the time. And so they have a perception. And my goal truly would be, at that point, would be like, hey, you may have a perception. There may be some truth behind some of those perceptions. I don't know, maybe not. But I will tell you this. We're all human. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to do the job the best I can. That's it.
Yeah. Brady, what other questions you got before we kick Josh off? Send him on his way.
I got one based on, we're in an age of a lot of technology, social media and that stuff. So what role kind of does social media play into you guys, like, looking at stuff, finding violations, or just like checking up on people? Is that now a tool that like actually helps for you guys to, like, hey, these guys are doing stuff right, these guys are doing stuff wrong? Do you guys use social media a lot to, like, either catch people or just, poke around, see what's going on?
Yeah. And that's a tough one too, because what you bring up is all perception, really. Because what happens on social media is you get a guy that maybe is made enemies with somebody else, right?
Mhm.
And it's really easy, and I use this as an example. It's really easy if I want to create drama with somebody, is to get on their social media page, find a picture with them with an animal, and just stir up drama. Like,
Right.
oh, I bet you shot at night, or look at the deer. I mean, I'm just telling you comments I've heard. Or look, if you look closely at that deer, you can see the spotlight. I don't know what that means, what people are thinking that means. I've even had people say, like, oh, here's a guy, he's a poacher, because on his social media page, when I zoomed in on his eyes, I could see that it was actually, like, I'm like, holy cow, these people they ought to come work for us, because I don't know what we're talking about, right? And so, but it does bring problems. If I sit on social media and I surf looking for violators on social media, I feel a little dirty sometimes if I were to do that. Like,
Yeah.
it feels like a little bit of an invasion of privacy to a certain degree, right? I don't know how to explain that other than just a feeling you kind of get. So I personally I don't scroll through social media looking for cases. Now, if someone brings up a case because they have inside stuff, right, and they got a tip, I'm all about it. I mean, at this point right now, if they're blatant enough to put it out there, that's on them, right? You know what I mean? So I got no problem with it. But if you're dumb enough to commit the crime, you can do the time, right? So that's your fault for doing it. But I've never wanted someone to feel uncomfortable posting pictures of their hunts online.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Are people using drones or night vision?
Yeah,
They are?
so we just had a good case on that not too long ago on both of them, and I will tell you this: that's probably going to be a beast we're going to be battling for a while.
Really?
It is, and I think that's one that, because of the end result, can be so productive.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much incentive. You know what I mean? And to you and I, a drone, we shoot. Well, let's be honest. We're hunters. What's one of the things we've always said since we were little kids? We grew. I know all of us right here grew up hunting. When we were little kids, we all said, "Man, wouldn't it be cool if we could look through those trees and see?"
Yeah.
Everyone said it. Like, I wish I could just like turn on something and see where the animals were when I left. Like, how dumb
Right.
was that glass there?
That's exactly it. See, you're nailing it. And like, we all had these thoughts, like, what if I could just like at night see all the deer I'm not seeing? I mean, we all know it's a cool concept. Ethically, legally, and responsibly, no, it's not. Like, that's not a good thing. We as a public have decided that. We as hunters, right? We've decided that. So to enforce that and to make sure people are doing it right, it gets tricky. It takes equipment to challenge equipment. It takes more money to get those equipments. It takes more time and people and energy. And sometimes that also means that I'm no longer in the field as much. I'm actually doing other things that are not as typical, stereotypical game warden work, which kills me. Like that, I see leaving this job is some of the stereotypical game warden work. That breaks my heart. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you got to combat it. You know what I mean? And so we do have laws in place. But yeah, to answer your question, Trail, on that 100%, that is going to be problematic for some time.
You ever use these robo deer?
So I have a
robo deer story.
I got one sitting in the shop right now that it's the ugliest deer. If you shoot this, you should have your vision checked, man. It's the ugliest deer I've ever seen. In fact, it's so ugly. One night we were driving to go set it up, and it's got a gap in its neck. It's got like all these issues. It's been shot so many times, over the years and whatnot. But my favorite moment was when I was a new officer. We actually found a reflective sign that had fallen, and it was a UDOT one that was someone ran it over and it was just broken, and we didn't have any eye glow. So me and the officer were over there cutting it, trying to get some eye glow off the sign, and we stuck it on there, and it still worked that night because people wanted to shoot something. So I guess ultimately, like, those robo deer are awesome because you really do catch that guy. You really catch that person that is willing to shoot something at night.
You've had people shoot it?
Yes. Yep.
I can't imagine what it must be like where you set that out and you're like hiding somewhere and like, oh my gosh, here comes a vehicle, it's slowing down. Don't do it. And he does it. And you're like, oh gosh, what an idiot.
The whole time I'm like, just like you're saying, I'm like, please don't do it. Please just go, just like make a good decision. Make a good decision. Please make a good decision. But last year, I'll tell you, it was kind of funny because me and an officer who doesn't work for us anymore, but he's a big boy. Like when I say a big boy, like he makes me look like just the smallest dude on the planet. I always said if he played football, I'd run behind that guy all day long. But he's got the whole decoy on his shoulders, and I'm just carrying the head, right? And he's running, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we were scared we were going to get shot. That's how productive it can be at times.
What?
I'm like, we got to hide because we saw spotlighters coming, so we were tucking in the bushes and hiding, but they never made their way to us. But however, the reality is, though, is like, if we're getting shooters at night, what are we not getting in the next county over? In the next
Sure.
county over, you know what I mean? 2 roads away.
Yeah, that's crazy. It seems so foreign to me. I just can't imagine you're just gonna roll up and be like, "Oh, there's a buck. I think I'll jump out and take a crack at it in the middle of the
Yep.
night." Yeah.
But if you put it this way, I just spent this money to go hunting. I just fueled up my truck.
Yeah.
I've been hunting 2 weeks,
Yep.
and then I'm driving home, and nobody's gonna know.
Good point. Yeah.
And that's their justification, right? That's
Yeah,
the
for sure.
Some people's brain.
I appreciate your time today, Josh. I'm going to let you. I want you to close out. What would you want people to know? So we're all getting ready to go out hunting. Hunting season just kind of kicked off. We're probably headed towards the main event, which is general season deer hunts. What do you want people to know?
Probably just speaking from time on, I would honestly, and you guys have brought up so many good points and just so many great conversations today, but I would really let people know that I'm one of you. I'm one of you. I'm on the same side of the fence that you're sitting on, but I'm also called to do a job, and that job I do take serious. I will do my job. I will write that ticket that someone may not, and I say that not to scare people, but I'm like, I signed up to do a job. I know the risk and the responsibility I have, and just because I may have personal perceptions doesn't mean that I don't hold the job and I don't do my part, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what I mean by that is honestly, I'm on your side. If you're doing everything right and you make a mistake, I'm also on your side. If you're doing something wrong and you don't know, I'd love to educate you. If you're doing it wrong because you feel you can get away with it, your time's coming. And before I retire, I hope I catch you.
Yes.
I love it. That's a good place to stop. But I appreciate your time. I'm glad that you're out there doing the job. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate Game Wardens. Let everybody know over there that we're pulling for you. We're rooting for you. We're glad you're out there.
I think we need more of them. I think there's so
I-
many states right now that I'm like, why is there only 50-some game wardens for the whole entire state? Like,
Right.
I agree.
seems kind of crazy, but yeah, you guys are busy. I know that.
Yep.
I don't know how you have free time to go play rugby.
Well, you sneak it in between the calls, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Because poaching's not just during the hunting season type of thing. It's 365,
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll cut you loose, man. Good luck for the rest of the year. If we can be helpful to you guys at all, let us know.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the time, guys, and what an awesome platform you have. And thank you.
Yep.
Keep up the good work, man. And I'll see you guys out in the field.
Yeah. Check us. Looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Okay. Take care, Josh.
All right. Have a good one, guys.
Yeah.